At a company dinner, my fiancé's junior assistant threw an eggplant she had already taken a bite of into his bowl, right in front of everyone, without a second thought. My fiancé picked it up and ate it. That same night, when we got home, I proposed canceling the arranged marriage. He rubbed his brows irritably. Just because I ate an eggplant she gave me? She took a bite and didn't like it. I corrected calmly. Amelia, calling you a jealous shrew really isn't unfair. You blow a trivial thing completely out of proportion. Fine, if you want to call off the marriage, I have no objection. Just don't come crawling back later begging me to remarry you. He was convinced I loved him too much to ever leave. What he didn't know was that no matter how deep love runs, it can still be worn down by repeated hurt. This time, I was truly determined to leave. Chapter 1. That very day, I told my parents I wanted to change the arranged marriage partner. They were surprised, but they respected my decision. After that day, Luis went back into Cold War mode with me. Phone number, social media, game friends, blocked and deleted in one clean sweep. This was his usual move whenever we fought. He was confident I wouldn't be able to bear losing him and would eventually lower my head to reconcile. But this time, as I stared at the send friend request button, I didn't press it like I used to. A week later, a notice appeared in the company group chat. Today is Boss Luis's birthday. The boss is treating everyone. All staff must attend. No leave allowed. Not wanting to make things awkward for everyone, I still went. The moment I entered the private room, I saw Luis sitting in the main seat, with Camila pressed close beside him. Camila's lips were nearly against Luis's ear, as if she were sharing a secret. It felt like an invisible barrier surrounded them, shutting everyone else out. A moment later, the two burst into laughter together, so close that they were almost kissing. I didn't want to keep watching, so I found a corner and sat down. Everyone started giving Luis birthday gifts. I didn't bother. I drank on my own until a shadow suddenly fell over me. I looked up and saw Luis's overly handsome face. The familiar impatience was still written all over it. Amelia, why didn't you prepare a gift for me? In the past, for something as important as Luis's birthday, I would have started preparing far in advance. The most unforgettable time was when I spent over half a year recreating, by hand and to scale, the floating house from his favorite animated movie Up. When the balloons lifted it into the air, he said we would grow old together like the movie's main couple. I believed him back then. I never imagined his promise wouldn't even last 3 years. Faced with his persistent questioning, I replied indifferently, I forgot. My attitude clearly angered Luis. He completely lost his patience. Amelia, have you had enough of this nonsense? You've been making a scene for a whole week over such a tiny thing? I looked at the lipstick stain on his lips, clearly rubbed off from Camila, and felt sick to my stomach. I'm not making a scene. I was serious about canceling the engagement. Luis stiffened for a moment, but regained his composure when Camila grabbed his hand. Amelia, don't misunderstand, Camila said softly. I only gave the food to Luis because I didn't want to waste it. If you hate me that much, then next time there's a dinner, I just won't sit at the table. I'll wait and eat everyone's leftovers instead. Her words immediately made Luis feel sorry for her. Camila, don't say that. You deserve the best things in the world. The one who shouldn't be here is Amelia. Who does she think she is? That everyone has to cater to her preferences? Luis, don't say that, Camila said gently. Amelia may be a bit delicate, but she is your fiancé. You should still coax her. Coax her? Luis sneered. Who does she think she is? If it weren't for my parents begging me to marry her, I wouldn't have bothered. She gets angry over every little thing. She's exhausting. Camila walked over to me, patted my back, and spoke in a lecturing tone. Amelia, from a woman's perspective, you really are being too dramatic this time. Luis hasn't been able to sleep these past few days because of you, even though I also think you're not very compatible. Since there's an arrangement involved, you should both take a step back. I slapped her hand away and sneered. Camila, do you know what I admire most about you? It's your ability to play innocent while being shameless, spouting sweet-sounding lies as you steal someone else's fiancé without even blushing. The smug look on Camila's face froze instantly. Luis exploded. Amelia, who gave you permission to slander Camila like this? Slander? I laughed coldly. Then let me ask you this, why does everything you buy for me, she also has one of? Why does she show them off at work right in front of me? Why does every fight between us end up being exaggerated by her in the company pantry? And why does she even know where your mole is? Enough. Smack. Luis slapped me hard across the face. Right in front of everyone. The world rang and blurred in my ears. But my eyes clearly saw the expressions around me. Some filled with pity and sympathy. Others with ridicule and disgust. Chapter 2. When my hearing finally cleared again, what I heard was Luis announcing loudly, "Starting today, everyone is welcome to like the photos of me and Camila. Once we hit 1,000 likes, I'll give up Amelia and go register our marriage." As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed Camila's hand and left without looking back. Before exiting the private room, Camila shot me a smug, provocative look. After they left, people in the room began filing out one after another. Some gloated. She should have checked whether she had the capital to act up. Now she overdid it. Regret it yet? Others kindly advised me, pride is nothing compared to real life. Just lower your head and apologize quickly, or Luis is really going to register with Camila. How could I not know this was Luis's way of forcing me to apologize? But this time, I simply didn't want to bow my head again, never. Even if it killed me. The private room that had been so loud and lively was soon left with only me. I grabbed the remaining hard liquor and downed it in one gulp. The burning alcohol slid down my throat into my stomach. The sting made my eyes redden. Decades of feelings ending, maybe it was just like this. If I went to South City thousands of kilometers away for an arranged marriage, he wouldn't be able to bother me anymore. And yet, for some reason, my face was already wet again. When I got home, I immediately started packing, preparing to leave. Luis and I had grown up together since childhood. In our not-so-long lives, we'd spent more than half of our time together. That bond ran so deep that I had too many things to sort through. This little red paper flower, Luis won his first kindergarten award, and he ran over on his short little legs to give it to me. I vaguely remember him saying back then, "I'm going to give the best things to little Amelia." This photo was taken when I had my first period. Luis secretly snapped my face, turning bright red. Back then, because I hadn't paid attention in health class, I thought I had some terminal illness. I ran to him, telling him I hoped he would take care of himself for the rest of his life, that he could get a girlfriend, but not one prettier than me. He was completely confused, and after questioning me closely, he realized I'd gotten my period. He immediately ran to the corner shop to buy me pads, and even searched online with me for how to use them. He laughed at me for not listening in class. My face turned crimson and I bit his arm hard. Later, he told me that bite didn't hurt at all, yet it was the first time he'd felt something different for me. Later still, we got together, but because we went to different universities, we became a long-distance couple. Our memories turned into one ticket after another. For whole years, 193,700 kilometers were the distance we crossed to run toward each other. Back then, he only had eyes for me, no matter how long the ride was. He never complained once. My fingers touched a hard little box. Inside were the ring bands we made together. For him, after graduating, I returned to this northern city. The day I came back, he dragged me to get these matching rings made. I still remember what he said as he slid the ring onto my finger. "Amelia, once this ring is on, you're tied to me for life. Don't even think about leaving me." But neither of us expected that in the end. The one who let go wouldn't be me. It would be him. Chapter 3. The day Camila came to interview at the company. She performed terribly. Luis looked down on her. I didn't take this applicant. Poor education. Poor ability. Seriously either. Yet for some reason, she was still hired as an exception. And gradually, she went from an invisible nobody to Luis's special assistant. The first time I truly sensed something was wrong was when the couple's ring, meant to belong only to Luis and me, appeared on Camila's hand. At first, when I questioned him, Luis would patiently explain and coax me. But over time, all he had left was impatience. My repeated reluctance to let go, my endurance, my attempts to please him, only made his favoritism toward Camila more blatant. At company dinners, the dishes ordered were only what Camila liked. Camila worked only half a day a week. The rest of the time she spent with Luis eating, drinking, and having fun. but her assistant duties were all pushed onto me by Luis. Luis also mentioned her more and more in front of me. At first it was unconscious praise and admiration. Later it became comparing me to her, starting to dislike me for not being as understanding as she was. Not as considerate. Until one afternoon tea break at the office. Luis said the coffee he ordered tasted great. Camila said she wanted to try it. And without hesitation Luis handed his coffee to her. He didn't even change the straw. Camila put her mouth on the very straw Luis had used and took a big sip. Luis then took the coffee back and kept drinking. Right off the lipstick mark Camila left. In that instant, it felt like an invisible hand clenched my heart so hard it ached, sour and painful. After that, Camila's boundary crossing as the female bro only got worse. Afraid Luis would get sunburned, she directly put her hands on him and smeared sunscreen all over his body. I made him lunch as his girlfriend, she made one too. She often ate the lunch I made, claiming my cooking was good. Then had Luis eat hers instead. Even the birthday celebration Luis promised me was forced to be cancelled because Camila caught a cold. But whenever I expressed dissatisfaction about these things, Luis would impatiently say, "Amelia, you're so filthy-minded. You see dirt in everything. Camila and I have the purest friendship. Don't use your disgusting thoughts to think about Camila." Only later, the less convincing that line became. What chilled me the most was a major industry event organized by the association. The organizer required attendees to bring their partners. Luis didn't tell me a word, he brought Camila instead. I only found out afterward when people repeatedly asked if I had broken up with Luis. I confronted him, but he was even angrier than I was. I was just helping Camila expand her network. And I'm cultivating talent for the company. How can you be so petty and jealous? That time, we had a cold war for a long time. So long that I truly thought we would end there. Until one late night, he texted, "Wife, my stomach hurts." All the coldness I forced myself to maintain collapsed in an instant. And so the terrifying cycle began again. I questioned him. He got angry. I begged and appeased. And he forgave. I closed the ring box and threw it into the trash. Deep in the drawer, there was still a self-criticism letter Luis wrote when he was 18. Because he had forgotten to reply to one of my messages. Back then, he truly cared about me. But now, the only one he cared about was Camila. I took the apology letter out, tore it into pieces, and threw it into the trash. After clearing out decades of ties, the house felt much emptier. My heart felt emptied along with it. In the company group chat, photos kept flooding in, Camila celebrating Luis, making him laugh, knowing how much Luis favored Camila. Colleagues eagerly fed them validation. God, the boss and Camila are so perfect together. If you're looking for a girlfriend, it should be someone like Camila, not someone like Amelia. Petty and always wearing a sour face. Amelia only has family backing. Camila got here all on her own. How could they even be compared? I couldn't be bothered to look anymore. I called my lawyer and told him to withdraw all my investments from Luis's company. Chapter 4. The next day, I went to the company to pack up my belongings, but in my private lounge, I saw Camila wearing revealing pajamas, her legs casually propped up on my desk. Her things filled the entire room. All of my belongings had been thrown outside the door. This lounge was a private space Luis had specially built for me. Everyone in the company knew it, and no one had ever dared to step foot inside. What Camila was doing now was blatantly humiliating me, openly trampling over my head. I didn't bother arguing with her and called the police directly. In the mediation room, Camila panicked. I was just helping Luis get some documents. Was it really necessary to call the police? That's my private space, I replied calmly. Did I give you permission to go in? Taking something without asking, doesn't that count as theft? After hearing this, Camila didn't argue back. Instead, she suddenly burst into tears. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Sure enough, when I turned around, there stood Luis, his face dark with anger. Luis. The moment Camila saw him, she threw herself into his arms. I really was just trying to help you get some files. But Amelia doesn't seem to like me. She insists on calling it theft. You've given me so many things already. I can't even fit them all in my villa. Why would I want her shabby stuff? This room was the paradise Luis had given me. It was my return gift for the wooden cabin I built for him. We shared countless sweet memories in this room. I always believed that at least this last sanctuary would remain untouched. It was the final shred of dignity our love had left. But Luis still chose to personally destroy my last illusion. While comforting Camila, he explained to the officers, "It's all a misunderstanding. We all know each other. Sorry for the trouble." Then he turned to me, his tone filled with disgust. "Amelia, how did you become like this? Acting like a jealous shrew every day, using your power to bully an innocent employee like Camila. Does that make you feel accomplished? You've really disappointed me." Before I could even respond, Camila started her performance again. "Luis, don't blame Amelia. I was the careless one. At worst, I'll sit in jail for a few days and let people laugh at me. It's fine. Just don't let this cause tension between you and Amelia." Luis held Camila's hand, his face full of concern. "Camila, you're just too soft. That's why people keep bullying you." Then he turned to me coldly. "Amelia, I'm telling you, this isn't over so easily. Apologize to Camila immediately." "Luis," I said. "She entered my private space without permission. And you want me to apologize? And you still think she's the one being wronged?" As soon as I spoke, Camila started sobbing again. Luis sneered. "Your private space? That lounge belongs to the company. Don't forget, the entire company is under my name. You only have temporary usage rights. If you keep this attitude, I don't mind having you charged with false accusation." With that, he took Camila and went to settle the matter. His words pierced my heart like a sharp spike. A heart I thought had already died began aching again. 4 years, I had poured everything into building the company. I thought I was fighting for our shared future. In the end, all I got was one sentence. "You only have temporary usage rights." Before leaving the mediation room, Luis gave me a final warning. "I'll give you a friendly heads up. The likes are already at 990. If you keep this attitude, I really will go register with Camila." Looking at the contempt in Camila's eyes behind him, I suddenly realized how pathetic I was. Camila's tricks had always been clumsy. Luis was smart enough to see through them. He simply chose to ignore them. The scale in his heart had long since tipped. This was nothing more than his way of shaking me off. Only I had been foolishly trying to make peace again and again. Once I understood this, the last trace of love I had for Luis completely died. In the days before I was set to leave for South City, a group of gloating colleagues kept messaging me privately, reporting the numbers. "The likes are already at 994. If you don't bow your head soon, your husband will be snatched away. TSK. 997 already. Looks like you're destined to be a leftover woman. Oh wow, you've lasted quite a while this time. What, realized you can't compete with Camila, so you ran away in fear? Ha ha ha." I blocked and deleted them all, too lazy to respond. When the likes hit 999 and I still hadn't lowered my head, Luis's temper had sunk to a terrifying low. No one in the company dared to press that final like. Just as Luis was thinking about how to issue me a second warning, someone suddenly burst into his office and shouted, "Luis, the 1000th like has been reached." Chapter 5. Hearing this, Luis's face instantly darkened. He flared up and demanded, "Who clicked the 1000th like?" The person froze, then answered nervously, "It wasn't me. It was when Amelia came to the company just now to get her resignation certificate. She used my phone and clicked it." "Resignation?" Luis snapped. "Who allowed her to resign?" "She's one of the company's shareholders. She can decide whether to stay or leave on her own. That was a rule you set yourself. Remember? Then she's giving up her shares too?" "Amelia withdrew her investment a few days ago." "Withdrew?" Luis blurted out. "How is that possible?" A flicker of unease passed through his heart. But Camila didn't notice anything unusual and continued speaking. "Amelia is just using tricks to force you to bow your head, playing hard to get." "Luis, don't be fooled again." Luis didn't respond. He just kept staring at his phone. He wanted to send me a message, only then did he remember that he had already blocked me. Seeing this, Camila sighed softly and said in a considerate tone, "I actually saw it long ago. Amelia really doesn't deserve you. She's overly sensitive and suspicious. She even interferes when you interact normally with friends. And now she's even trying to force you to apologize. That just shows she doesn't care about you at all." Luis's fingers paused. A strange feeling suddenly rose in his chest. He remembered how good Amelia had once been to him. warming his hands for him in winter, holding an umbrella for him on rainy days, even running all over half the city when he was in a bad mood, just to buy the red wine he liked. These little details pierced his heart like needles, making him inexplicably restless. Camila, don't say that. He finally spoke, his tone stiff. Camila froze for a moment, then put on a wounded expression. Luis, I'm only doing this because I care about you. Look, it's so hot. You're here feeling miserable, and she hasn't even sent you a single message. If it were me, I would never let you suffer like this. I just feel it's unfair for you. Luis removed Amelia from his blacklist and immediately called her. However, what came from the receiver was a cold automated voice. Sorry, the number you dialed is currently unavailable. His heart sank sharply, his fingers trembling slightly. He tried again several times, same result. A sense of dread surged up inside him. He quickly opened WeChat. He sent Amelia a friend request again, only to receive a rejection 5 seconds later. She rejected me? Luis muttered, his face turning pale. Camila leaned in and said with feigned surprise, No way? Amelia is really that heartless? Luis, don't be sad. Someone like that isn't worth your pain. If it's over, then let it be over. Luis grew more and more agitated. Suddenly, he shoved her away. Shut up! Ignoring Camila's stunned expression, he directly dialed Amelia's father's number. Chapter 6. After the call connected, Amelia's father's voice sounded slightly weary. Luis, what is it? Uncle. Amelia, has Amelia gone out? She hasn't been to the company for several days. Did something come up? Luis asked anxiously, still clinging to a shred of hope. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Amelia's father sighed softly. Luis, didn't Amelia tell you? She's gone to the South City for a marriage alliance. Her flight was this morning. She should have arrived by now. Luis felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. His phone almost slipped from his hand. His voice trembled. What, a marriage alliance? Then what about the alliance between her and me? How could she hide this from me and marry someone else? Her father's voice was calm and distant. Luis, matters between young people aren't something we elders should interfere in. But Amelia is serious this time. I hope you can respect her decision. After hanging up, Luis stood frozen in place, the world spinning around him. A loud ringing filled his ears as memories of Amelia flooded his mind. Her gentle smile, every little thing she had quietly done for him, and the disappointment in her eyes the last time she looked at him. Luis, are you okay? Camila reached out to help him, but he violently shook her off. Get lost! Luis roared, his eyes bloodshot. This is all your fault. If it weren't for you, Amelia wouldn't have left. Camila's expression changed. Then she put on a hurt look. Luis, how can you say that? It was Amelia who was too narrow-minded, unable to even accept you interacting normally with friends. She never trusted you. What meaning does a relationship like that even have? Luis froze. Amelia's face filled his mind. He remembered the dinner that night, how he had eaten the eggplant Camila handed him without hesitation, and the dimness in Amelia's eyes. He remembered how after every argument, Amelia was always the one who lowered her head first. While he never cherished it, he even remembered Amelia asking him cautiously, Luis, could you stay a little farther away from Camila? And his impatient reply back then, Amelia, you're so annoying. Regret surged over him like a tide. He squatted down by the roadside, hugged his knees tightly, and finally broke down crying. But this time, there was no one left to gently pat his head. No one to say, don't cry, I'm here. After arriving in the South City, before the marriage alliance even began, my career took off first. I rebuilt my team and set the strategic goals for the new company. Every day felt full and purposeful. My alliance partner was named Leo. His family's influence was far greater than Luis's. Previously, Leo's family had repeatedly shown goodwill to my parents and proposed an alliance. But at that time, my heart had been completely tied to Luis. I couldn't see anyone else. My first meeting with Leo left a very good impression. He wasn't arrogant like a spoiled heir, nor was he timid or obsequious. He carried himself with ease and grace, and talking with him was always relaxing. After spending so long in constant tension with Luis, being able to talk calmly like this made me feel unexpectedly content. I was honest with Leo, telling him I had just come out of a failed relationship, and that I needed some time to adjust myself. Leo was even more understanding than I had imagined. He said he completely understood and was willing to wait for me to open my heart. Former colleagues from my old company occasionally called, telling me bits and pieces about Luis. They said he and Camila were together now, but not doing well. Camila was fickle by nature. After confirming the relationship with Luis, she quickly started flirting with other men. Luis argued with her over it more than once, even bringing it up to his mother. I just smiled when I heard all this. There wasn't the slightest ripple in my heart. Chapter 7. During my vacation, Leo asked me out to dinner at a newly opened restaurant downtown. I hesitated for a moment, but in the end, I agreed. He was so happy he sent me a string of emojis right away. No backing out. If you back out, you're a puppy. I could only smile helplessly when I saw them. The restaurant was exquisitely decorated. Warm yellow lights spilled across the table, making Leo's eyes look especially bright. He was wearing a black casual outfit that day, his hair neatly styled to reveal his forehead. Compared to usual, he looked sharper, more strikingly handsome. Amelia, try this. He picked up a piece of sweet and sour ribs and placed it into my bowl. They say this is their signature dish. I was just about to thank him when, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a familiar figure walking in through the door. Luis. After several months, he looked much thinner, his complexion noticeably paler. He saw me too, his gaze froze instantly. The next second, he walked straight toward our table. Amelia. His voice trembled. I finally found you. Leo looked at me, then at him, confused. I set down my chopsticks and said calmly, "Long time no see." Luis's tears suddenly fell. "Can I talk to you alone? Just 5 minutes." Leo tactfully stood up. "You talk. I'll go to the restroom." Luis sat in Leo's seat, his fingers tightly clutching a napkin. "Amelia, I was wrong. I was really wrong." His tears splashed onto the table. "Camila, she wasn't sincere with me at all. She got together with someone else and said I was too annoying." I looked at him quietly, feeling not the slightest ripple in my heart. "So what? What does any of that have to do with me? Can we start over?" He grabbed my hand, his fingertips icy cold. "I regret it, Amelia. These past few months, I've thought about you every single day." I gently pulled my hand back. "Luis, we're over." "No." He shook his head violently. "You still like me, don't you? You're just angry." "Sorry." I smiled faintly. "I stopped being angry a long time ago, because I don't care anymore." His face turned deathly pale. At that moment, Leo came back, holding 2 cups of hot milk tea. "For you." He handed one to me, then glanced at Luis. "Do you want one?" Luis stared at him fiercely. Suddenly, he stood up, his voice sharp. "Who are you?" Leo paused for a moment, then smiled. "I'm Amelia's fiancé. We're getting married soon." I looked at him in surprise, but he secretly winked at me. Luis was struck as if by lightning, stumbling back 2 steps. So you already." His tears wouldn't stop falling. "Amelia, you're ruthless." With that, he turned and rushed out of the restaurant. Leo sat back down and smiled at me. "Sorry, I acted on my own." I shook my head and couldn't help smiling. "No matter what. Thank you." "You're welcome." He propped his chin on his hand, eyes sparkling. "If you're willing, I'm ready to get married anytime." Outside the window, the glow of the sunset poured in, falling on the side of his face. I suddenly realized that his smile was warmer than anyone else I could remember. I thought Luis would give up after that. I didn't expect that the very next day, he would come straight to my company. He stood at the entrance, his face pale, dark circles hung heavily under his eyes. He looked thinner, and the once bright light in his eyes had completely dimmed. He was clutching a thermal food container tightly. When he saw me, he immediately forced a flattering smile. "Amelia, I made your favorite rib soup." His voice was hoarse, as if he'd been crying for a long time. I frowned and didn't reach out to take it. You don't need to do this. My tone was cold. We're already over. His smile froze on his face, his fingers trembling slightly. Still, he stubbornly pushed the container forward. I cooked all night. Just try it, okay? You always used to say, Luis. I interrupted him. Don't talk about the past anymore. We're finished. His eyes instantly turned red. His lips trembled, as if he wanted to say something, but he swallowed it back. In the end, he lowered his head and said softly, okay, then. I'll come again tomorrow. For the next 10+ days, he came every single day. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes he just stood far away, watching me, his gaze humble and stubborn. My colleagues began to whisper among themselves. Some pitied him. Others mocked him for bringing it upon himself. Until one day, I finally couldn't take it anymore and stopped him on the tree-lined path on campus. What exactly do you want? My voice was icy. He shrank back slightly, but still forced himself to look up. Amelia, I really know I was wrong. Could you give me one more chance? Impossible, I answered without hesitation. His tears burst out all at once. Choking, he said. Then what do I have to do for you to forgive me? I can change. I can give up everything. I just want to stay by your side. Luis, I interrupted him. Give up. We can never go back. His body swayed, as if all his strength had been drained. In the end, he slowly squatted down, hugged his knees, and cried silently. I didn't help him up. I turned and walked away. Chapter 8. From that day on, he never appeared again. Later, I heard that after I withdrew my investment, Luis's family declined rapidly. After I left, Luis stopped caring about the company altogether. He drank himself into oblivion every day, his mind constantly unfocused. Camila had long since dumped him, and his family was thrown into chaos because of him. His father was so furious that he suffered a stroke. His mother cried every day until her tears ran dry. As for Luis himself, he worked in a bar, living in a daze. A friend once sighed and said, he got drunk once and cried, saying that if he hadn't treated you that way back then, would the person standing beside you now still be him? I didn't answer. Time passed in a blur. Leo and I got married. On the day of the wedding, the sun was shining brightly, and the church was filled with guests. Leo wore a perfectly tailored suit, his smile radiant. As I looked at him, my heart was full of happiness. Just as we were exchanging rings, out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly caught sight of a familiar figure standing in the last row of the church. It was Luis. He was so thin he was almost unrecognizable, his face pale as paper. He wore a faded old suit, his eyes hollow as he stared in our direction. Our gazes met for a brief moment. As if burned, he hurriedly lowered his head, turned around, and left in a rush. I froze for a second. Leo gently squeezed my hand and asked softly, "What's wrong?" I came back to my senses and smiled at him. Nothing. The church doors closed gently, and Luis's figure disappeared completely into the sunlight. 1 year later, one evening, I was organizing documents in my study when my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from an old friend. Amelia, have you heard? Luis is dead. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering above the keyboard, not knowing how to reply. Before I could respond, another message came through. He went to Camila's company, hugged her, and jumped from the 19th floor. They both died on the spot, their bodies shattered beyond recognition. My heart tightened violently, and Luis's last appearance at my wedding flashed through my mind. Thin, pale, like a wandering ghost. Back then, there had already been no light left in his eyes. I had never imagined that would be the last time I saw him. When did it happen? I typed slowly. Yesterday. The news has already reported it, but without mentioning the specific reason. They say he'd been harassing Camila for a long time, but she kept avoiding him. Yesterday, he rushed into her office. They argued for a few moments, and then, the messages carried a heavy tone. I put my phone down and walked to the window. The setting sun dyed half the sky red, and the outline of the distant city gradually blurred in the dusk. A complicated emotion spread through my chest, neither exactly sadness nor relief. Leo pushed the door open and walked in, holding a cup of hot tea. Sensing my unease, he asked softly, "What's wrong?" I handed him my phone. After reading the messages, he fell silent for a moment, then took my hand. "Are you okay?" I nodded, then shook my head. "I don't know." I thought I'd already let go, but hearing this still makes me feel uncomfortable. He leaned against my shoulder and didn't ask any further questions. We just stood there quietly until night fell. A few days later, I went alone to Luis's grave. His parents had chosen a quiet corner for him. The gravestone was simple, engraved only with his name and the years of his birth and death. There was no photo, no epitaph, as if his entire life had been summed up in just a few words. I placed a bouquet of white chrysanthemums down and stood there in a daze. In my memories, Luis was still the boy from high school, wearing a red basketball jersey, smiling brightly. Back then, his eyes had held only me. "You came." A hoarse voice sounded from behind. I turned around and saw Luis's mother standing not far away, also holding a bouquet of flowers. She had aged a lot, her hair almost completely white, her eye sockets sunken. "Auntie." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. She gave a bitter smile. "In his final days, Luis often talked about you. He said that if he could start over, he would never treat you the way he did back then." I remained silent, my throat tightening. She placed her flowers in front of the grave and said softly, "He was mad. He'd been mad for a long time. Actually, from the day you left, he was never normal again." Her voice trembled, and I, as his mother, didn't notice how deep the love and hatred in his heart ran. I didn't know how to comfort her, so I could only say softly, "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "It's not your fault." Luis couldn't let it go himself. After that, she turned and left, her back bent like a withered tree. When I got home, Leo was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Seeing me return, he put down what he was doing and came over to hug me. "You went to see him?" I hummed in response and buried my head in the hollow of his neck. The faint scent on him made me feel at ease. "Amelia," he said gently, "let the past stay in the past. You still have me. You still have our future." I looked up at his bright eyes and nodded. Yes, life had to go on. Luis's choices were his own, and I had long since chosen a different path. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Luis wore his high school uniform, standing in the sunlight and smiling at me. He said, "Amelia, be happy." Then he turned and ran off, disappearing into the light. When I woke up, my pillow was soaked. Leo was still asleep beside me, his breathing steady. I gently kissed his forehead and got out of bed. Walking to the window, the sky was already turning pale with dawn. A new day had begun. Luis's death was like a stone thrown into a lake. It stirred a few ripples, then quickly settled into calm. Life moved forward, and his story remained forever frozen in that moment of despair.